Hello everyone, Ultimate J here. Today I decided to do a video on the shifter, moving the shifter on a Turbo 2 transmission 4 inches forward. As many of you are aware, the Turbo 2 transmission is longer than the stock transmissions that come in the old school cars. So in order to put the shifter in the stock location, you can actually shorten the shifter linkage 4 inches. You can move 4 inches forward. That'll allow the Turbo 2 transmission to go into an old school car and still resume the stock location. Anyways, set. First step that you want to do is remove the shifter. Very easy. 4 screws right here and the shifter pops straight out. Next you want to remove all these bolts around the tail shaft housing all the way around. Once you get those bolts out, you on the shifter, the tail housing, and remove the tail housing. Alright, once you get the tail shaft housing off, there's an inspection cover. This plate right here you got to remove. There's 4 bolts. So remove those. I already got it loose, so to make this video easily. So remove that, those 4 bolts. Now inside, this is where your shift rod connects to this little block right here, right where your shifter goes in. Right here, this hole, there's a cotter pin. You got to punch it out. You just take a punch and you punch that straight back. Don't worry about hitting anything, it'll just fall out to the other side. And once you do that, the shift rod from the tube will pull right out from the bottom. Okay, so here's the shift rod. You pull it out after you take that cotter pin out there. It just slides right out. I got the cotter pin out. So it just slides out. And then you got your shift rod, and then this is the piece where the shifter hooks onto right there. Shifter goes in. So once you get that, you got the shift rod. Lay that out. Next step is to take these 4 bolts out right here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, and once you get those out, this thing will just come right off. And I already have it cut for this video, so this thing's gonna fall right off. So this will all be one piece, but you got this piece, this will all be one piece here. There's a tube in there. So that piece will all be together. It's one piece. I've already cut it, like I said. So it'll be like that. So you got the shift rod, this. Okay, so those are all the parts for the shift tube and the shift rod. You got your dust tube here. The shift rod goes inside of it, and that'll go right inside here. Then here's the shifter linkage that goes with the cotter pin. So those are all the parts that you're going to have when you remove it. So the next step you want to do is you want to measure the distance from this hole to the center of that hole, which I've already done it for you. It's 4.065 inches. So once you get that measurement, you want to cut your shift rod, this rod, you want to cut the tube at 4.065 inches. So if I've already done that, so you can see here, this is how long the rod used to be. Now before you cut it, you want to drill the hole for the cotter pin. So what you do is you measure, obviously, from this hole 4.065 inches back, and you want to drill another hole. Now I have access to a mill, so I used a mill, so I just chucked it up, got the center, and I just move it over 4.065 and I just drill the hole. So if you don't have access to a mill, you could probably get by with a drill press, but it's probably not going to be perfectly accurate, but it'll probably get by. So once you drill that hole, then you just cut the end off. You just cut this end off the same distance from there to there. So there's that tube. And then on the dust tube, same thing. You want to cut it 4.065 inches from the end. So there's your dust tube. So now you have the tube, the rod is cut. So the only thing left to cut is obviously the shift rod housing, which on this one you don't really have to measure 4.065 inches because there's no interference here since this is all open. So I just go right above the shoulder here where you have plenty of meat. So that's it. The only other thing I want to tell you is on this dust tube you got 2 little rubber boots on the ends, and those things are like glued on. What I do is I try to take it off as best as I can. You pretty much end up butchering it up, but you really can't get these, so you just got to try to take it off as best as you can and put it back on there and use some silicone on the way back in. Once that's done, I'll assemble it to show you what it looks like on the tranny. Alright, so I'm back. One thing I forgot to tell you is that you're going to be moving it from here to 4 inches forward. It's going to bolt up to there now. Now there's an interference right here on the back, on this back mounting ear right here. So you got to grind that off because it hits right there on the back of that bolt. So you'll see once you try to put it on, you'll have to grind this ear off. I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to mount everything to show you what it looks like. Alright? Okay, see, I grounded that ear off there. And also I forgot to tell you that there's 2 dowel pins here. You got to remove those as well. So you just take both of those out, and now I'll assemble everything so you see what it looks like all together. Alright, so here's everything back together. As you can see now, you're only using 2 bolts instead of 4. So basically you're just cutting this section out and you're moving it 4 inches forward, and that moves the shifter location 4 inches forward. So you're shortening the shift rod, the dust tube, and the housing, basically 4 inches. Then there's your dowel pins. And so you're going to put everything back together, obviously. Don't forget to punch in your cotter pin back in, line up your hole, and that's it. There's your shift rod right there. And then you put the tail shaft hull assembly back on the transmission. Don't forget to use sealant, obviously. And also it's a good time to replace the output seal. And there you go. Throw it in your RX2 and go raise some hell. Anyways, hope this helped you guys out. If you have any questions, give me a holla.